Welcome to Plan Organize College. This is Eric with Exclusive Tutoring San Diego. And what I'm doing here is I'm putting together a little podcast that's going to help my students and the students across the world get ready for that college application. Now, I am focused upon helping the students who are applying right now, but also helping out the students who will be getting ready to apply for the colleges next year. And so, the very first thing that I really want to have you guys start to consider is putting together a little profile for yourself. And what I mean by a little profile is, grab a piece of paper, put your name in the very, very middle, and start to brainstorm all the different things that make you who you are. Now, what I want for the top half is going to be considered internal, and for the bottom half, I'll consider it to be external. Now, what I mean is the fact that internally there may be certain things or things in terms of your characteristics, your personality, experiences, etc., that make you who you are. And then on the other side, the external will be all the things that influence you in terms of from outside. So your family, your culture, your community, your school, extracurricular activities and sports, etc. that you do. Go ahead and take that time to list these things out. Now, what you've done here is you've, essentially brainstormed the essays that would be possible to help explore and help describe who you are. And why I actually have my students start off with this exercise is because the basis of the UC and actually the common applications were actually started from this main idea. In order to get the best idea of who you are as a student and as a person, we have to take into all the accounts of the internal and the external influences that shape you into who you are. And so, by taking the time to consider these things, you already do have a brainstorm and, a step in the right direction for forming your extracurricular and your academic essay. Now, this isn't the only thing, obviously. As we continue, we want to go and find these essay prompts. Now, I'm going to tell you this. In my experience as a counselor for college admissions, I've found that these essays don't actually change very much, okay? Over the course of the years, they've made very small edits, very small changes in the way that they work, because there's only so many questions you can come up with that give me an idea of how bad do you want to go to my school. So understand that these will be the basis of it. Now, the one thing that I want to point out in this is that it's very easy to become general on your essay. And what I mean is that we will use blanket statements to encompass the things that we've done. We'll use, general terms to explain the things that we do. But the thing is, when you start to use generalities in your work, you lose a lot of the personality and you lose a lot of the identity that comes with it. So, for example, what I tell my students is something I call identity crisis. If you write your essay and you can actually think that this essay could be applied to another student somewhere across this planet, somewhere on the other side of the country or even somewhere else in your state, if you think that that's possible, we do want to start to add things that make that essay more unique to you. And so, for example, you want to point out certain teachers and locations and the activities that you've done. But that also leads into another tip that's very common is a lot of students start to list off the things that they've accomplished. They start to list off things that are actually expressed throughout their extracurricular list. So it's really important to go through and make sure that you're not just rewriting the things that you've done in your activities, but you actually start to use the skills of storytelling to bring me into your story, okay? So for example, I'll always use my examples of guitar and basketball when I talk about essays. It's very easy to say, I picked up a guitar and learned how to play it on my own. But what I want you guys to think about is, in terms of storytelling, what are the things that capture an audience? Well, the main things that really capture an audience are emotions and the senses. the five senses that we have. So, for example, instead of saying that I learned how to play guitar when I was in high school on my own, I could start to describe the situation instead. For example, the essay might sound something like this. I could feel the pressure of the strings in between my fingers, and the repetition of playing these chords and notes had started to, take root in my mind. I'd started to finally understand that music was true across the board, not just for piano or flute, but for this guitar that mom and dad had bought me. Okay, so, if you think about that, I've actually involved other things. I could talk about the notes and the sounds and even smells and certain sights, etc. Instead of the simple fact of that I picked up a guitar and learned how to play it. I could talk about the specific songs that I enjoy playing and what they mean to me, and therefore bring more emotion into this essay. What a lot of students do is they start focusing on what I consider the I ... essay. So it goes this way. I go, my name is Eric, I do this, I play basketball, I play guitar, I go to this school, I have these grades, I am, considered, this and that, blah, blah, blah. So if you notice, a lot of students actually focus too much on these very basic structures of essay writing. And in doing so, there's no flow. It doesn't capture my attention, and it kind of, sounds kind of bland. No, I want you guys to understand, if you want to give yourself a good chance for college applications and for admissions essays, start planning ahead. Give yourself more than just the 2 to 3 months that they usually have to send out their your essays. Go ahead and do the research. If you need to contact me, I'll glad to point you in the right direction. But go ahead and start doing the research that's necessary to give yourself the tools and the head start. Know what prompts there are, start brainstorming, and start developing them on more of a weekly basis. That's what we do here in Plan Organized Colleges. We keep you on a more structured schedule to help make sure that by the time you send out this essay, it is considered one of the best written works that you've ever done. Because it's not just like in any other ordinary essay you do for school. You don't write it once, edit it once or twice, and turn it in and hope for an A. You do want to go through this essay multiple times and make sure it truly sounds the best that you can make it. Edit it multiple times. It'll be edits over the course of a couple weeks, couple months, not just a few days, all right? So I hope these tips were helpful. Again, there are plenty more tips, plenty more things, but again, it's usually more determined by a one-on-one per basis, because ultimately we all have different things we want to express ourselves with and say in these essays, but until I see what it is that you've written and how you've expressed yourself, I can only take a guess and give you generalities. So if you have questions, if you're working on those essays, or if you're looking to plan them out and get ready for next year, go ahead and check out my materials at exclusivetutoringsd.com. There's a Plan Organized College button there that has a lot of materials linked to it. If you have questions about anything, go ahead and give me a message or an email, and we can, I'll gladly go ahead and talk to you about, the development or things that we need to work on. So, again, it's Eric with Exclusive Tutoring San Diego, Plan Organized College. I hope to talk to you guys all soon. Keep working on those essays and get them done. And if you need that help, don't hesitate to ask. All right? Have a great day, guys.